So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jim Love. I'm the CIO of IT World Canada, ITWC, and I'm your host for today's webinar, launching your first workload in the cloud. We have great content for you today, but before we get started, I want to take care of a few housekeeping items for you. Now, we want these to be as interactive as possible. So I'm going to encourage you to submit your questions through the question box in there. And we'll be asking some poll questions at a few junctures in the presentation. So please participate in these interactive polls so we can understand your current situation and interests and be as relevant as possible. Now, we're gonna make every effort to start and finish on time. We've started on time, so we got 50% of the way already. But we'll finish on time and get you back to your next thing that you got to get to. So, but stick around to get the full benefit of the program in there. At the end of this, watch for a thank you email from us. It'll contain the download link for the presentation. You don't have to worry about taking notes or anything like that. So just sit back, relax, enjoy. Well, don't relax, join us and engage with us. But you should receive that email by the end of the week. And then take a minute, if you don't mind, to complete the evaluation form. If we get your feedback, we can design better programs. So the more feedback we can get from you, the better off we are in there. Now, I think that's about it. Yep, that's the end of my housekeeping. So we can get on with the program, which is why you came. Now, cloud computing might be powering the biggest companies, but it is not exclusive to the domain of large enterprises. Cloud computing is a critical solution for small and medium-sized businesses. And if you're looking for flexibility, for scalability, and of course, lowering the overhead and costs and eliminating things like server maintenance. Now, whether your business challenges revolve around websites, remote work, student engagement, virtual labs, or building your own applications, the cloud can help you compete and thrive. So that's what we want to talk about today. And we've got some great guests for today. I've got Carolina Pina, who's the head of education for Latin America and Canada from AWS. Carolina, you're out there?
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. And we've got Lakshmi Maladi. Did I get that right? It's Maladi?
Yeah, that's me. Lakshmi.
I practiced your first name, but I didn't practice your. So Lakshmi is the Chief Technology Officer for North Bay Solutions. Now, I've met both these people in the rehearsal, so we've got some great. So welcome, welcome Carolina, welcome Lakshmi. We're going to start out, guys, with a poll just to get everybody in the audience working on this thing, and then we're going to move on with the presentation. Good with you? I'll take that as a yes. There we go. Okay, so for the audience out there, help us out with this. Let's take where are you in your cloud journey? Now, you can select one of these answers, any one that is there. Where are you? And this will help us tell basically how, how to pitch the webinar to you and how we can make sure you get the right content in here. So, are you getting started? Are you still getting key workloads? Are you trying to get identifying the workloads to migrate? Are you in the business just right now selecting cloud providers? Are you evaluating or experimenting with AWS right now, or do you have no plans at this point? So we'll just give you a second to do that, and I've got my producers and a whole production company in the back end here running around getting this ready to go for this poll to go up there. So I'll wait for their signal in there. So in there, so and we'll just, oh, there's the answers. There we go. So Carolina, Lakshmi, we'll take a look at these. So we've got 8% getting started. Good. 17% identifying key workloads to migrate. 8% saying they're selecting cloud providers. Carolina, look at this. Evaluating, experimenting with AWS, 33%.
Amazing.
And 33% with no plans yet. What do you guys think? This is pretty standard audience for you, Carolina?
Yes, no, it's exciting to see that there's, well, first of all, that a lot of they're getting started, which is what's important. And well, hopefully after today, the 33% and more then can continue to experiment and come to AWS.
Cool.
And I was about to say that.
And work with North Bay, of course.
Yeah, and of course. But we're not doing a commercial, but we want to get onto our content. But these are great guys. So yeah. So at the end of this, you'll all be in that evaluating, experimenting piece in there. Lakshmi, we turn it over to you. Is that?
No, I will take it over.
Carolina's starting. Sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Jim, and thanks ITWC for the opportunity to have this space, and obviously with our premier consulting partner, Northway. So Lakshmi and I are excited to share with the audience more details on launching their first workload in the cloud. So these are the topics that we will be covering. I will start with why academic institutions are adopting cloud and why customers are selecting AWS as their cloud provider. Then Lakshmi will do a deep dive into what the migration journey entails. We'll share case studies and lessons learned. Then I will end up with the added value from AWS for higher education, and we'll open up for a short Q&A. So let me trying to get the mouse to work. There we go. So I think it's impossible to talk about education these days without mentioning the global disruption of the education system that the pandemic has brought. Apart the negative consequences of COVID-19, we have seen that the pandemic has actually forced university to adopt digital transformation processes that were thought for the future. Universities saw this 5 to 10 years out in simply months, or that the innovation that would have taken a decade has occurred immediately. So going back to the college this year in 2021 will be like being in the year 2030, as we heard from Glyn Davis, a former director of the University of Melbourne in Australia. Many K-12 schools, colleges, and universities are migrating to the cloud, not just as a response to COVID-19, but like Jim said at the beginning, but because the cloud provides scalability, cost effectiveness, and innovation. So working with AWS and partners like North Bay, institutions can get results faster and more efficiently, ensuring that they're taking advantage of all the benefits that the cloud has to offer. According to Educase, the list that you see here in the slide are the main reasons why universities and schools are adopting the cloud. So obviously COVID-19, cybersecurity, digital transformation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, enterprise IT, student success, teaching and learning. And we'll hear from Lakshmi on some case studies that relate to this. So besides COVID-19, another reason why universities are adopting cloud is cybersecurity. And these days, much of the learning is taking place online. So because of this, academic institutions and research centers are increasingly vulnerable to cyber attacks. A 388% growth of successful ransomware attacks in the education sector was reported in the third quarter compared to the second quarter last year in 2020. Many cases have been published in social media, and recent attacks have been seen in Brazil and in Canada. Research attacks are also becoming a major concern for universities, especially those conducting research on behalf of corporations. Universities that announce they're doing research related to COVID-19 vaccines have become targets of academic thefts. These examples further highlight the importance of improving security and transparency of systems hosting academic research. Technology and the AWS cloud can help mitigate these incidents and protect against theft. At AWS, security is our priority and job zero. Universities that have embraced the cloud and have understood the importance of digital transformation will succeed and remain relevant. Those that still see transformation as a nice to have and not as a must have will probably struggle and disappear in the long run. One of the institutions that understood this clearly is Athabasca University in Canada. Athabasca is one of the world's fastest growing online and open education institutions, serving more than 43,000 students across 87 countries. Last September, Athabasca successfully migrated its entire IT structure to AWS in just 6 months, and is now what we call an all-in institution in AWS. Another key differentiator for the cloud is innovation. Schools want the flexibility to explore and experiment with new systems in a way that is simple and cost adaptive. With this new normal, innovation has become an even higher priority as universities realize they could no longer rely on traditional systems or delivery methods used during in-person instruction. From enabling small group discussions to handing back grade on tests, administrators needed innovations that would empower professors to move the entire teaching model online. COVID has also forced people to work remotely, and we have seen entire national systems move to the cloud, and platform adoption has increased significantly. This brings us to a new reality where people learn at home and at their own pace. Educators agree that personalized education yields better results and that technology has accelerated this process. To be most effective, educators agree that they must focus on how students interact with material and how use technology to drive engagement and interaction. Also, through the cloud, universities have been able to better serve students with disabilities, rapidly address mental health of students with contact centers and chatbots, democratize access to services, and positively impact student experience. The Canadian company Desire to Learn, or D2L, which is a global learning technology company that runs on AWS, uses technology to make classrooms more inclusive. Its platform Brightspace provides audio content for learners with visual impairment challenges. Also, for instance, the Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana, which is the largest community college in the US, it has close to 2 million students record and a very large IT infrastructure. It uses machine learning to predict with more than 70% accuracy which students are struggling and deliver intervention faster. So now let me get into, if I can, I don't think I'm able to move the slide. So Sophia, maybe you want to move it. Yep, thank you. So now let me get you into what sets us apart, and hopefully we can talk to the 33% that it's already seeing and exploring AWS. So for us at AWS and at Amazon, we have a very peculiar culture. One of the aspects that makes us different is that we do not focus on competition. Most companies see what others are doing and try to do better to surpass them. That might be a good strategy, it's just not ours. 90% of what we create is what our customers tell us they need and they care for. And the other 10% is what customers cannot articulate, but we're able to read between the line and invent on their behalf. But although we don't talk much about our competitors, we cannot fail to mention that Gartner, which is the leading research and advisory company, has recognized us as a cloud leader for the 10th consecutive year. So we are at the intersection of vision and execution ability. This is a great position to be at, but it also means that we have to work daily to maintain that leadership spot and that our customers feel that we have their best interests as our priority at all times. We're also pioneers. We have been creating and refining our services since 2006 when we launched. And unfortunately, many of the big tech companies have lost their ability to invent and have to buy that innovation. We at Amazon, we hire builders, people who want to build, reinvent experiences, and create. And so in this fast-paced world of the cloud, I think it is key to choose to go hand in hand with a company that has the most functionality, that changes the fastest, that has the most extensive community, and that had the vision of the cloud from the beginning. I already also mentioned that at AWS, security is our priority. And we actually think about security culture differently. We believe security should not be an obstacle to achieving your organizational goals, but a collaborative force to propel your business safely forward. So if we do our job right, security is a business enabler. According to our Chief Innovation Security Officer, he always reminds us that the foundation of successful security culture really rests on a few key pillars: security as a business priority, building the right mechanisms and tools, and using automation to help our customers scale. Also at AWS, we have more than 175 services and have proactively taken 80 price reductions to date, passing those savings to our customers. Also, more machine learning happens at AWS than anywhere else. We make it easier for developers, data scientists, and researchers to use our service and innovate. And lastly, we have the largest and most dynamic ecosystem with tens of thousands of partners globally, like North Bay, taking care of our customer needs in a timely manner and ensuring we continue to build and innovate on their behalf. Next slide, please. So, thank you. Another aspect that sets us apart is our global infrastructure, which is comprised of 25 geographical regions, 80 availability zones, and more than 230 points of presence. So our infrastructure is the most secure, extensive, and reliable platform, offering over 200 fully featured services from data centers globally. Whether our customers need to deploy application workloads across the globe in a single click, or they want to build and deploy specific applications closer to their end users with single-digit millisecond latency, we provide the cloud infrastructure where and when they need it. And as you will see in the next slide, and you can see here, so AWS is also the cloud provider to universities, colleges, K-12 schools, but also to many of the edtechs that support education around the world. Hundreds of millions of students, educators, and researchers in over 200 countries and territories have access to education technologies and online curriculum running on AWS. This includes learning management systems companies like the one that I mentioned earlier, the Canadian Desire2Learn or D2L, Blackboard and Structure. Also student systems like Ellucian and publishers like Pearson and many others. 19 of the 20 most well-funded US education technology startups also use AWS. And this includes Civitas Learning, Echo360, Schoology, and Coursera. And another, if we can move to the next slide, you will also see another aspect that sets us apart, and that is our marketplace, which is a curated digital catalog that makes it easy for customers to find, buy, and deploy third-party software, data products, and services that customers need to build solutions and run their businesses. With AWS Marketplace, customers can quickly procure and use products from thousands of software sellers when they need them. With flexible pricing and terms, customers have the flexibility to test software, pay as they go, negotiate custom terms, and save money with long-term commitments. Additionally, AWS Marketplace empowers customers to centralize governance, innovate quickly, and launch software products, helping ensure they align with their organization's policies and compliance requirements. We actually know that IT decision makers like the ones in the audience today cut their time in half using AWS Marketplace compared to other procurement services. As you can see in this slide, we have over 8,000 products across 50 categories and over 1,600 independent software vendors. So before I pass it on to Lakshmi, I think we're gonna actually take another poll with another very interesting questions that we wanna hear from you.
We are indeed. Thank you,
Jim?
Carolina. Great.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, and Athabasca, I have to give shout out to my I told you my niece is the dean of
Yes.
science there. She's it's fabulous university. Sorry, but
Yes.
proud of the kids in there. Kids, she's the dean. Tells you how old I am. We're going to do another poll in there. So, and we just like to get your response on this, and you were so great on the first one. So let's try. So, what are the key priorities for you if you're moving to the cloud? Are you looking for cost savings in there? Are you looking to support online learning in a hybrid format of classes? Or are you looking for the analytics? Now, obviously, you might want all of these things, but which one do you think you're really sort of gravitating towards? Security, obviously important, or disaster recovery and backup? And those are some, I think, some of the key reasons that people do move to the cloud in there. So cost savings, support online, online hybrid format learning, data analytics, security, disaster recovery and backup? Which one of those are the most important to you? So help me out here. So then we'll take the poll in there. Sophia, you're watching these, so obviously there she goes. There's the okay. So Lakshmi, you're watching this to help you tune in for your next part of the presentation here. Cost savings 45%. That's a hefty.
Yeah.
And we talked about this that cost is an important part for this audience in there. Support online hybrid formats, data analytics, about 20%, security and disaster recovery. So on that piece in there, people think we don't rehearse because I actually turned it over to Lakshmi instead of Carolina Carolina this time, but this time I actually got it right. Lakshmi, you're coming up next, right?
Yep. Thanks a lot, Jim. Thanks for the opportunity. And again, a great again intro for the AWS as a cloud platform from Carolina, right? Again, that's what is. Again, we hear day in and day out, working with the educational institutions, again, all the way from K-12 to higher ed institutions and even the cloud providers, the education ed tech providers. So again, coming back to the core theme of this meeting, right, which is now I think based on if I got the numbers right, we have about 40-50% or even 60% are looking into how to go to cloud or experimenting. That the first question comes is, okay, how do I get into the cloud? Now we have prepared to go. We have a cloud strategy. We wanted to go. We understand that the value that the cloud brings to cloud, but how do we approach from here? So I want to share some experiences about different customers from different customers working with the current company, and even before I was working for AWS for some period of time, and even with that before that with Oracle. So I have decent experience with a lot of different educational institutions, and the question always comes back is, okay, we have decided what next. So the approach that a lot of these educational institutions have taken, I would say it's a parallel path, right? It's one path is, okay, we have all these legacy systems. As Carolina was mentioning, you have different student information systems, whether it's PeopleSoft, Solutions, whatnot, and they also have homegrown applications. And a lot of educational institutions, including the community colleges and then small to big universities, they also have a lot of different systems still working in Excel. So how do we get all these different types of systems into cloud? So one is the migration aspect. We have all these legacy systems, software that are due for licensing, whether it's hardware, software. That's one thread where you're looking to optimize for cost savings. The second thread is with all the pandemic situation, as Carolina was mentioning, that it accelerated the pace of innovation. So now we need to migrate to this online learning fairly quickly, which we thought it's going to be in our 4 or 5 year time frame. We need to do more student enrollment, maybe because again the numbers are changing with respect to how do you get international students, how do you do the facilities management. So there is a lot of data collection that's happening where you need to probably take up new initiatives that were not part of that before. It's not part of migration, but the net new initiatives, and how can you be more agile doing these initiatives. So as you can see, any of these type of initiatives, whether it's migration or new initiatives, lot of again institutions, again this is not specific to education per se, this is across the board. This is commercial, this is government sector, this is everybody, right? Where the way that they are deciding on the cloud strategies, any net new initiatives, let's not put the new projects into the old way of doing things. Let's start doing in a new way of doing things. Let's build cloud native. Let's be more agile. Let's migrate our process or methodology from waterfall model to agile. Let's do this serverless cloud. Let's not buy into the servers. So that's the path where any net new initiatives are being created in cloud. So that's one possible path when you're trying to say, I want to move my first workloads into cloud. So the net new projects is one approach. The other approach is you wanted to migrate your existing applications, close out your data centers, your big core application, whether it's student information system or enrollment system or HR system, whatever that might be. It's again, it's due for its time, whether you need to buy additional hardware, whether you need to renew your licensing. So in those cases, is it better to put more money and lock yourself out for another 4 or 5 years, or is it a good time to consider moving their systems? So would that be your first workload, or would that be the again third or fourth wave where you establish yourself, okay, I can operate things in cloud? So what I'm going to share in the following discussion is a couple of use cases on how some educational institutions and edtech providers have taken both approaches, the cloud native approach and the migration approach, so that it can give a better idea as you're trying to envision and build a cloud strategy, think about how you move your workloads to cloud, how to operate in cloud. It may give a better sense. And as we are saying, right, maybe tilt your scale to accelerate your migration to cloud. So let me see if I can. So what does a typical migration journey looks like for a customer? So as I said, once you have decided to move your workloads from your on-premises to cloud, again, this is an established pattern across thousands of different customers, thousands or tens of thousands, where there is AWS is not just leader in terms of the services that it offers, but also process and methodology, right? This is something that has worked for many customers. And there is a guided prescriptive guidance approach where you say, okay, follow these steps and process, you will be better positioned to operate in cloud. So again, things like assessing. So now you have, are you planning to move just one workload or close out your data center, or you want to build a disaster recovery? Whatever your approach may be, start with assessment and build a business use case. Again, especially in this time and age, cost is going to be a key factor. When do you again realize your overall TCO? What is the ROI on the effort that you're going to put? How do you build the business case so that you get the funding to run these projects? So that's something that a lot of institutions are going towards. And this is where you can definitely get help from the solutions architects or partners to assist you with your approach and building the case. So once you do that, the first workload, it's better to build it right. So when I say build it right, you need to have the security guardrails. Again, as Carolina was mentioning, right? So there is a lot of big focus on the security. So there is a lot of attacks that are being happening. So even if before you move your first workloads, you wanted to have the core set of core infrastructure, as they call it, you have to get it right. And you need to be able to operate. It's not just the migration. Is your day one, day two operations ready to operate your workload on cloud? And once you have this overall pipeline set, overall process set, and overall skills of your team enhanced, so that's when you start pushing the button to accelerate. Now we have done one. So the next is going to be, there are a lot of tools available, the lot of solutions available from marketplace, from partners, even within AWS native ecosystem to accelerate this overall process. So what we have seen in terms of the typical timeline is to get your first workload, to do it right, it may take anywhere between 2 to 6 months. But after that, even if you have tens of workloads, hundreds of workloads, thousands of workloads, you can accelerate the pace. Those all can be accomplished within a matter of few months, or again 2-3 years, based on where you are with your overall licensing. And it's basically customers choosing to slow it down. It's not necessarily the technology challenges that's slowing it down. So what are the typical migration paths, right? So as I said, once you decide on the approach, so I need to go build the business use case, I need to set up the base infrastructure, what would be my first workload? So what we recommend, or what a lot of these customers and educational institutions are doing, is have this application assessment. So where you have these tens or hundreds of applications, how do you decide on what is your first candidate for migration? What exactly are you trying to accomplish by migrating your workloads? Are you trying to say that I can run your workloads, my workloads on cloud? Or are you trying to take the features that the cloud providers bring? For example, how do you scale well? How do you minimize the overall TCO? or are you due for licensing for your existing applications where this becomes my first workload? So depending on the variety of reasons, what exactly you're looking for, the application assessment you can put into different buckets, whether it's prime for rehosting. I don't want to make any changes. I want to move as quickly as possible so that I can run in cloud and I don't need to buy additional hardware. So there are also benefits you can get by using replatforming. Things like you don't need to operate or keep paying for licenses for your proprietary databases, your Oracle SQL servers. You don't need to keep on paying for them if the same solution can be realized by using open source solutions like the MySQL or ROS. You don't need to pay for Windows licensing. You may be able to operate in Linux. So wherever you have an opportunity to reduce the overall spend, as I said, again, as Jim was also mentioning, right? Which is the cost savings is going to be huge, especially in this time and age. There is a lot of uncertainty, and again, the enrollments either we have seen some universities they spike up, they're growing exponentially, and at the same time there are some universities where they're cutting down, scaling down for everything to be normalized so that they can grow back again. So because of this uncertainty, that the scaling factor is going to be huge, where you don't want to buy and lock up the resources. The pay as you go model is going to be the key for overall savings. So taking the same theme forward, right, and how it relates to the overall the educational institutions focus, as we discussed in the agenda. So there are multiple areas where these educational institutions are looking for. So let me talk about a couple of things, right? So one is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is a key focus across the globe, right? Across all institutions. The key idea here is, how do you capture enough information from your different systems, because there is a lot of focus on different funding that are available. So there is a focus on gender equality. There is a focus on minorities inclusion. There is a focus on international students across the globe. So how do you capture all this information? And once you get this, are there any specialized programs that you need to assess? Because whatever worked for your existing students may not work for a specific set of international students. So what are the things that you need to do, and what type of and there are a lot of funds available across these different types of distribution of students, right? So there might be some funds available for students with disabilities. There are some funds that are available for improving the minorities within the educational institutions. So how do you capture all this information? How do you target a specific set of students? And how do you enhance their overall again, funding process and qualify for the grants that are available internationally or nationally or within the state? So to do that, there are some universities taking measures. Again, this is where I would say the path of innovation. The existing institutions may not have legacy systems that satisfy these type of new requirements, because there are more funding that's available that are now that may not be there. So all the capturing of the information, all the data collection process, all the reporting process, all the analytics process, they may have some basic stuff currently, but this is an area where there's a lot of innovation happening, and these are probably the net new projects, right? Where different institutions are adopting. And along the same lines, there's some institutions are also trying to build themselves, or they're looking into these marketplace products or partners who already have these solutions. So what we have seen, especially how to make it happen, there is a lot of focus on the digital transformation, especially for edtech providers, where they may have some solution that they're trying to do, but they want to innovate. There are a lot of educational providers are trying to go towards SaaS-based solutions. So previously they used to have some solution working at institution. Now they are trying to build a multi-tenant solution. So they want to automate as much as possible, because there is so much agility that the previously, again, if you consider 4 or 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, any new version of a product used to come every quarter or every year. Now the changes are happening, or the newer versions are happening. They're not even called versions anymore. There are so many changes happening day in and day out, where it's became part of the process, where you are seeing these new features pop up and you don't even realize that you have been, and you're taking away this whole concept of patching and making sure, because this automated testing and everything works as expected. So these things are key for agility, and this is what the educational institutions are looking for. So one of the use cases I'm going to talk about, again, we were fortunate to work with these type of focus areas, right? Where we work with an EdTech provider. Again, it's called eVision. So what they do is they provide the reporting and analytics mechanism for gathering information for qualifying for grants, so that they comply with what the grant proposals say, and also in case of audit, there is a audit mechanism, so that this is where the information is coming from. This is exactly where it's come from, because a lot of times, again, when we were talking to this company, right, what they said is a lot of the institutions are not even aware that they can qualify for so many grants. And even if they qualify, the timeline to approach and put for the grants is within a matter of days and weeks, where they said it's going to take a lot of effort from our existing team. We'll not apply for that. We'll look for something else. So with these, they have made it very simple to capture all this information and hold the grant qualification process, right? And getting all this information. And they were also in the process of the digital transformation. So one thing that we did as part of again how they approached and what exactly was the enabler for this is they were going to these individual universities and going through the proper process, saying, okay, this is a solution where you can implement and basically apply for grants fairly quickly. So what they did is they saw the innovation that a cloud can bring. So what they said is, okay, we need to probably re-engineer or refactor our entire product so that it becomes a SaaS solution. So because of this, we don't need to have our sales force working through each country, through going to each university to adopt this solution. Now, once it's SaaS, it becomes more self-service. So the time to adopt and adopting these types of solutions is going to be much easier. So they do have solution across again the United States and also all the Commonwealth countries, and they have in so many countries, right? They do have some customers within Canada, UK, Australia, and so forth. So what we have done, we enable them to make it more cloud native, cloud ready solution, converted their existing on-premises solution to a SaaS-based platform. We also help them to make it a more like new age application, right? So integrating with something like Alexa. So where you're saying, okay, how is my mix of the students looks like in so and so university for third semester or so forth. So again, it makes it easier to see how this is being enhanced. So it makes it easier for it gives a win-win situation for all the grant creation committees, this edtech providers and educational institutions, so that the overall time to market and the experience, so the overall experience that the students are ultimately getting is going to be much enhanced. Again, I'm not going to go into detail of again how we have implemented. This is something that we are going to share as part of the references and sharing the deck. But we have used all the native services, converted their entire legacy application into a cloud native platform, and again, happy to share additional insights.
Yeah, and Lakshmi, actually, I would love to add another relevant example that fits into this is Humber College of Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, which is Canada's largest college in Toronto, Ontario. So one of the first initiatives that Humber's digital education strategy was to enable remote access to academic applications so that students would have the flexibility to access any courses, resources, regardless of the device they were using when they were outside of the physical campus. So using the cloud, so using AWS and also using Amazon AppStream 2.0, Humber was able to simplify the deployment of these academic applications for end users and also remove the need to provision Windows Desktop in the future. So now Humber has, the ability to scale and ability of obviously the resilience that the solution can now quickly scale up or down as needed. So I just wanted to share that that example with the audience as well. So back to you.
Excellent. Thanks. So another big focus that's a lot of especially higher ed institutions are adopting, right, is how to enable the student success. Again, this is a key theme, especially for the big universities, right? Again, how, because when you're talking about these prominent high profile universities, there are a lot of students coming to get the value of joining these type of university. How do they make the students successful? The reason they came for to their universities. How do they enhance their experience? It's not just during the course of their learning, but also it expands beyond the 3-4 year period that they're at the universities, right? Including the alumni and so forth. So how do they enhance the overall student experience? Again, it all points back to one of the theme that I was mentioning, data, and data, right? So this is something that's data is the new oil. It's not just specific to any vertical. Everywhere, as you can see, this collection of data and data-driven decisions, right? So based on whatever you're providing to students, are they utilizing the services that the university provides? Should the university should make anything better so that there is more adoption of those services? You have all these groups, sessions, libraries, and facilities. All these, how much is it being utilized? Is it something that you can enhance? And depending on the personal profile, this is where it's not just you're not targeting student success as a generic experience. You're also going to the level of again, personalized experience. This person comes from this country with this hobbies, and he's trying to go into this particular academic career and has chosen these particular type of courses, and he's joined these groups. So combining all that type of data, so you can go to as much detail so that you can enhance their overall experience and the overall the student satisfaction, and also again, more importantly, enhance their careers. That's the whole point. And this is something that again, a lot of universities are taking up as new initiatives, because with all the machine learning and AI evolution or revolution that happened in the recent times, it is making it easier to predict and also assist, recommend to these students that this is what you might need, and it will help enhance your experience at our university. So this is something a lot of universities are adopting as new initiatives. And going to one of the case study, right? Again, we work with the University of Pittsburgh. Just to give you in terms of the profile of the university, they have close to 35,000 students in any given year, and they have about close to 4,000-5,000 staff team, and they do have close to 500,000, 300,000-400,000 alumni. Again, it's a very old university, and one of the things that they're always looking for is what value that they can add, because it's a high profile. A lot of universities want to go to these type of universities, and how can they enhance their experience? So one of the initiatives that they have taken upon is enhancing the student journey from the time they come to the university. How do they increase their experience day in and day out? And what they were looking for is they have all this information, just like what I told a while ago, is they have the information about the personal preferences. They have the information about what courses that they're taking. They have some information about what groups they have joined, any sports or hobbies that they have learned. And they also have this event management system or calendar system, where they can see how they are setting up this calendar that's viewable for others. So all this combined, they wanted to again, as part of the first case, they wanted to recommend some of the similar preferences. For example, there are a lot of sessions given by guest lecturers. There are a lot of lecturers. There are a lot of sessions that are happening in the libraries, or sessions or conferences or seminars. What is it that they can suggest to these type of students, so that they're more interested in joining them and getting more from from being part of this university. So one of the application that we have done is again enhancing the student journey. What we have done is we captured this information from 3 or 4 different sources, and again went through some machine learning AI specific tool set and recommendation systems from AWS ecosystem, and we were able to showcase the recommendations that an individual student can have. And the amazing part is all this work that I was saying, it was done in 2 weeks. Which was totally unusual for this university coming from where they are. So before they even contacted AWS or us, they said, okay, we have this idea. We were thinking maybe we can get all this system done and procure some additional servers. We were thinking about 5-6 months or something like that, and they're blown away, right? With the pace of innovation that can happen. This became the reason or impetus. Okay, if we can achieve these type of systems, getting it done in a couple of weeks, what else can we achieve? So this became the reason for basically going back to their stakeholders and getting additional funding for the next fiscal year. Let's go all into cloud. So let's push the buttons for the migration projects. Let's push the buttons for net new initiatives. So as you can see, get started with something small, with anything from idea to let's see how it works, the POC and something called what we call a jam session in 2 weeks, where we were able to show end to end, and that they saw the benefit, and again they're moving full force into the cloud adoption.
So Lakshmi, I actually, it's a great example of University of Pittsburgh, but I wanted to share one that it's from UBC, it's the University of British Columbia, which is one of the world's top research universities right there in Canada. And it's actually the university where we have the only AWS Cloud Innovation Center of the country. So through the center, we explore a solution to assist students in synchronous online classes by providing a transcription of the lecture in real time. So this solution benefits anyone who's unable to participate at the same time, as well as students who benefit from seeing the course material in written form. So the solution provides a consistent experience for students when instructors deliver course materials through Zoom. So instructors use the tool to employ the live closed caption transcriptions, which are displayed in real time in the Zoom's interface. So faculty and students have the ability to download the timestamp transcription upon the completion of the lecture. And this was possible utilizing services like Amazon Transcribe, AWS Amplify, AWS Lambda, and CloudFormation. So wanted to share that.
Excellent. So moving to the other part of the parallel paths, right? So we have seen how the new projects and innovation can happen so rapidly in cloud. So the other side is you have all these legacy systems. You have been maintaining your existing hardware, again with different types of software. How do I actually again reduce my overall total cost of ownership? And especially again with respect to hardware, they usually get renewed every 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, depending on the type of hardware that you have. There's always up for renewal, and you're locking yourself for additional 3 to 5 years or 10 years or so forth, right? So usually whenever the conversation about license renewal comes, there is always again a conversation that's happening within the educational institutions. Is it a good time to not renew or move to cloud? Usually this discussion happens 1 to 2 years prior to the actual license expiry. So you don't want to cut to the time. If it's expiring next month, you cannot do much, maybe depending on the application. But if it's 1 year away, when you're planning for these next fiscal year or 1 to 2 year plan, that's when you think, okay, shall we start considering getting out of whatever we are paying to something like cloud? And also this again, especially with all the compliance and attacks with respect to the ransomware and all these different natural disasters, right? Usually, again, from my personal experience, disaster recovery is something a lot of educational institutions want to do. They have done to an extent, but it's not well tested. They're not comfortable that all my applications can actually fail over to disaster recovery in its full capacity. So they have been paying anywhere between 30 to 70%. Again, a normal average cost of maintaining a disaster recovery center is close to 70% of your primary data center cost. That's a huge cost, and you are building like to like, and the time you're actually using disaster recovery is not even probably 1 or 2 days out of the entire year. So you're having this lot of costs that you are paying. Usually disaster recovery is something that that lot of institutions and customers who are already paying for it. It's an easier way to reduce your overall TCO, because if you're using some of the cloud-based solutions, you are not paying until you are using it. So you're only paying very minimal, which is your data synchronization and so forth, which comes to probably, again, our experience, depending on how much data you have versus how much you're paying for compute, it comes anywhere between 5 to 15% of your overall cost. So you're decreasing your 70% cost to 10% cost right there. That's a huge benefit. And also with the IT modernization and pay-as-you-go model, you don't need to buy. One of the common issues or challenges with any on-premises hardware is you always buy for peak. For example, your system is very busy during the final period of your closure, or during the initial, whenever your schools are starting, everybody's enrolling to different courses. That's when the peak is. But apart from that, those systems are not utilized. You're still paying for those systems. Those are perfect candidates to actually move the workloads to cloud, where you're increasing or decreasing depending on the usage. Again, that's where you're saving a lot of money. Again, one of the things that that it's difficult to get head around is when we were talking to one of the educational institutions and said, you don't need to keep your systems up and running during your summer vacation. You don't need to keep your systems up and running during your spring break or nights and weekends. If you just follow that, all your production and non-production instances, you're reducing your overall spend by 50 to 70%. So that's like a mind-blowing number, right? Where these are the type of things that they're not used to thinking, and you're basically changing your mindset from capex expenditure to opex expenditure. So these things can save a lot of money, especially looking at the numbers that we saw in the poll. This can be a huge benefit and the reason for considering to go into cloud. So coming back to one of the use cases, right? Again, this particular use case is again, this is something that's the Edmonton is an educational LMS provider. So they do have again online teaching, training, and testing services. They do operate across 80 different countries, and again, their primary target audience is school systems, the K through 12, right? So because of the pandemic, their business got again expanded exponentially. So one of the things that they said is different school systems within US, within Canada, across the globe, they were reaching out. Everybody was madly looking at, okay, where can I get my LMS system, because I cannot start my school, I cannot open my school. So they got a huge number of prospects, and they were again, it's a good problem to have. But at the same time, they were not comfortable that their existing systems can handle the workloads if they sign up for these customers. One bad experience with the school system, they may lose their entire business. So they want to make sure before they sign up, they can satisfy the demand. They do have a disaster recovery center in a different location, but again, as I said, it's not well tested. They're not comfortable that it can even sustain the load. If they even take out the data center disaster recovery and make it as a primary so that they can handle the new customers, they were not comfortable. So that's when they reached out. Okay, how can AWS help? How can help mitigate this problem? One of the things that they were also looking for is, again, this happened sometime during summer last year. They didn't know how long this COVID situation will last. If everything they have a magic pill where it goes right away, then they may not even have that demand. So they don't want to pay this all this money and the whole situation go away, right? So there's a lot of things where they say, okay, why not do this disaster recovery solution, because we are planning to reduce our overall costs anyways. And once we have this disaster recovery solution going into this cloud, because it looks so great with the overall TCO, and you don't need to pay that much money. And if you test it, and if it works, why not stay there? And that's exactly the approach that they took. where they basically built a disaster recovery solution. It was well tested, and once they cut over, it was operating with great efficiency. It was again behaving as if it from the end user perspective. It was again yielding better results. It was more performant. They can onboard more customers and so forth. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Lakshmi, I thank you for sharing your and I already know that I already mentioned Athabasca earlier because they're an example of digital transformation, but they actually, going to your point, they're actually also an example of disaster recovery. So Athabasca moved its out of its data center, which was located in a fire-prone zone in northern Alberta, migrating all their operating system, including its learning management system. So they moved all the LMS, they moved all their enterprise resource planning. So the ERP system, which obviously we know that manages admissions and registration, billing, and academic records and payroll, all of that, they moved to AWS. So which was great. So we know that Athabasca obviously moved to the cloud to improve resilience of its data to natural disasters and bad actors. But what's great is like the university also estimates that by moving to the cloud, they will save 16 million, so 16 million dollars over the next 5 years by running its operations in the cloud. So Lakshmi, exactly the point that you were saying, and I think this is actually very relevant, as you also alluded, and we saw in the poll, 45% of the audience is interested in cost savings. So definitely the pay-as-you-go model and going and running in the cloud will help you also realize some of those cost savings. And obviously, we know that that's relevant, due to not only disaster recovery, but also the impact that we're seeing in enrollment for, for instance, the drop on international students and things like that. So definitely the cloud can bring those benefits to the institutions.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Cool. Way to go. Nice stuff. I want to wrap up with a couple questions, and we can take questions from the audience. And if you got questions from there, if in the audience, please put them in there. If we don't get to them in the time that we said we're going to be up and running for this webinar, we will get back to you with an answer. So yes. But a couple of questions in there. Lakshmi and Caroline, you made a really impressive case for cost savings. I'm also a part-time professor at a university, and on the board of another one. So we grapple with these, and these are serious problems that we have, is operating costs in there. So you made a really compelling case for there. But let's talk a little bit about the risks. What are the risks? What's holding people back if this is the compelling business case that we have? What do you think's holding them back, Lakshmi?
Yeah, I can go first and Carolyn can add to it. So again, the risk comes from different places, right? So one is the transition across different departments. So let me talk about the people's and personal, right? So it's a big change to move from the CapEx model to OpEx model. So that seems to be an inhibitor. To get that right, usually again it's funded once every year during the fiscal year conversations. When we are saying, okay, pay as you go model, what does it mean? So that's something where there is a time spent to transition the company, and also from the people process side, upskilling of the team again can be mitigated using the partners and so forth. But also primarily the project management methodology, which is be more agile, be more adaptive, as opposed to let's build this design for 6 months and then implement for the next 2 years. So that model is turning upside down, right? So let's do quick time to market. Let's see if it works, and then let's enhance. So I think those are the two things I would say. Apart from the technology is a big enabler and accelerator, but those two things are from my side. Caroline,
I don't think it's technology anymore. Caroline, can we talk a little bit about the programs that AWS may have for this? Are there programs that?
Yeah, and actually, sure, Jim. And actually, I wanted to add. So what we're seeing when we talk to universities, actually, the two things that come to first is it's security, and that's why I talked about security and how security is our priority, because universities obviously they deal a lot with student personal information, and they don't want that to obviously be leaked. So we put them at ease, saying that the cloud, we have a shared model where it's not like everybody can be accessing your data, et cetera, et cetera. so they can be at ease. So security is one of the things that we hear more often. And the second, and Lakshmi touched a little bit about that, we actually hear often that, because the first department that we typically go and talk to is the IT department. And you'll be surprised, Jim, to hear that a lot of the IT also, they're still like struggle. Like if we move to the cloud, that means that I won't have a job because I don't have to be checking on the servers physically. So they really need to understand that they will not be, displaced because of the cloud. In fact, the cloud would release some of the time that they're using on checking their on-prem infrastructure to actually innovate and work on other things that can, and other projects that can add value to the students and the faculty and the staff. So it's all about benefits.
Yeah, and anybody who's out there, being a CIO myself, embrace the cloud skills. Those are your next level of skills. There is no shortage of people. There is a shortage, not a shortage. There is a shortage of people with cloud skills. You will not be out of work. Trust me on this.
Yeah.
If I and I'm closer to the end of my career than I am to the start of it. If I was going to go again, I would embrace the cloud technology as we have.
Yeah, and Jim, you asked about the programs. So actually, we do have a lot of programs to provide cloud skills to students and faculty. We have our AWS Educate, AWS Academy, and we're happy to also share some of these more details on these programs with the audience. But we do have, and that's part of, providing benefit to the cloud. The cloud can impact all aspects of the university. And in addition, we can provide these workforce skills that is going to make the students more marketable and the teams more efficient within the institution. So it's all positive.
We're coming up to the top of the hour. Do we have contact information for you guys? If not, we can make sure that gets out to everybody in there. So please, if you've got questions, you've got things you want to follow up on, please do that. Carolina from AWS, Lakshmi, new friend from North Bay. Great. Thank you so much for coming out to do this with us. And again, for those in the audience, we couldn't do this without you. Please give us your comments. You'll get a copy of the slide presentation. You'll get some follow-up material in there. Share this with your friends, and we're glad to have you at these webinars. So please let us know what you're thinking of. To all of you who joined us today, thank you. We thank our sponsors for doing this. We can't bring this type of content without the gracious sponsorship of our sponsors, AWS being one, North Bay. So if you have any questions following the webinar, please contact us. You can follow up with me directly, or you follow up with the contact information. We'll send you right after this. That's our wrap in there. Thank you guys so much. So great having you.
Thank
you for having us. It was great. Thank you
very much. And then Jim Love from the CIO of IT World Canada. I just forgot who I was for a second there. And I'll see you next time.